beginning to sound eerily familiar. Applying military solutions to political problems is what lost you Bangladesh in the first place. So it's quite, I mean, it's pleasant.
Yeah, but thanks for that. The question of region, of course, is very important and interesting throughout South Asia and elsewhere. And when I was referring to Balochistan as a region, what I was thinking of, because I referred to it together with these little enclaves, right? So you have Omani, then you have the Balochi diaspora, military diaspora all over the Persian Gulf and the Indian Ocean, and you have, so in its own small way, even though it's a bigger territory, arguably, it's a kind of region that was imagined almost in a non-territorial fashion. It strikes me. So from something that I know slightly better, Gujarat. Right? So here, Gujarat in India. Right? So you have here's a region which arguably had great cultural integrity. Right? Everyone called themselves Gujarati. Yet it was part of the Bombay presidency. It was part of this much larger thing, within which it was a minority. It was divided between many different small princely states. It had a huge diaspora. Right? So when Gandhi and all the famous Gujaratis, they have no problem being Gujarati in South Africa. Gujarat does not refer to that piece of land called Gujarat. It's imagined in much more creative ways. So I would argue that it's only now, in fact, that Gujarat as a territorial entity is being imagined as such. And we see what the results are. The results are pogroms and riots and elimination of thousands of people. That's part of the logic of the coming into being of Gujarat, I think. It could not have been possible earlier. It's the return of the diaspora in a way as well. So, instead of beginning with the story of yes, the place is what has existed. It has a name, it had people, and all the rest. And yet these people are spread in different places, and they perhaps, I don't know the case, but you know much better than I, but this is not, certainly with regards to vis-a-vis sin, what you mentioned in your question. Next question, that's very clear, and it's clear in all the documents, at least the colonial documents that are written. If you read Richard Burton on sin, it's all about Baluchi aristocracy and their rule over sin. Right? So there you have another story of, ironically, because it's by a British colonial officer, of colonization and sin. But that too, as you were pointing out, allows you to imagine Balochistan completely differently. Is it possible then to say, I'm suggesting, that it's only with, as it were, it's not with the breakup of the idea of Pakistan, but it's instantiation of Pakistan that the region comes into being as something with integrity, right? So that before 1947, yes, you have Kalat and you have the Khan of Kalat and Jinnah and these negotiations of accession, and we know where they went. But again, it's a bit diffused. One doesn't really know what's happening. Once the state is established in whatever way, suddenly, together with the integrity of the state, the integrity of the region becomes crucial. Punjab, NWFP perhaps in a way, Sindh certainly, I think, and possibly Balochistan. So that's the way in which I was trying to locate the role of the region at this stage.
So we have the luxury of imagining many things that you, as a political figure, actually create some stuff. What would your Balochistan encompass?
First of all, I would start when I talk about Balochistan independence. It's like 327 March 1948. That was the day Pakistani army entered Balochistan, a sovereign country, a sovereign state. So armed with status. So we have to restore that Balochistan. We had houses of commons, law. That was the thing. Now when you talk about Murray Bukti area being separate, that was called British convenience, they called it British Balochistan. Join some Kashmir area for themselves. Baloch did not call themselves as British Balochistan. British called us British Balochistan. Then state of Qatar. I showed all these maps. We never saw a state of Qatar. It was always Balochistan. So it was Balochistan. British gave us these names. If you have comparison, you said some county over here would say I was independent. We were independent. If Britain was annexed or occupied by Germans in 48 or 45, today they would have not fought for the independence. They would, 60 years have passed. That's regrettable. Now being part of the greater Germany. No, I think people, they have their aspirations. They want to have a state. They have different culture, identity. Linguistically, we Baloch have different language from the rest of Pakistan. Talking about like Zardari being from Baloch tribe, yes, there's almost 60% Baloch living in Sindh province. But nobody is claiming that land. They themselves call themselves like Sindhis. They speak Balochi, some of them they speak Sindhi. But when we talk about independent Balochistan, sovereign Balochistan, we talk about that Balochistan with the borders which Noori Nasir Khan drew 450 years ago.
So you're still going to keep the Sindhi Balochistan out of it, the Balochis who live in Sindh?
No, if they
So
want to come, they can migrate.
But you don't claim that as your
We
Balochistan?
won't go for extension, like we won't go and occupy other countries. We are against that kind of politics. So, now Dera Ghazi Khan, which is in Punjab, this whole Baloch territory, the greatest leader of Baloch, Shakar-e-Azam, he is buried over there. So, Baloch area have been divided, like now in Iran, you see Kirman, another province, Bam, and Sistan, Balochistan. Interesting, it was called, long time ago it was called Balochistan. After a while they started calling it Balochistan Sistan. Now it's called Sistan Balochistan. And I heard in the future they're planning to call it Sistan, just Sistan. So this is how they're changing the name, the history. People are forgetting what happened, and we are trying to tell them, especially the Baloch nation over here, the young, they should know what happened. As they said, Baloch consented to joining Pakistan. Bangladesh did. We did not. We were. That's why there was a speech also by one of our leaders in 1947 when he said we won't join on the just because being a Muslim we have to join Pakistan or Iran or some other country. No, that's not enough. Merger, our identity is going to be diluted. So that's the fact. People anonymously, the whole house rejected the notion of joining Pakistan, India, Iran, any of the countries. They said we want to have our identity intact. So the fact is, like Omegan is going to say, and talking about Pashtun, we do not claim Pashtun land. Historically, they have got their own land, we have got our own land. British, again, the divide and rule policy was there. So they brought, in British Balochistan, there are some Baloch areas and some Pashtun areas, like in Quetta, Noshki is a Baloch area. So Quetta mixed Baloch and Pashtun. Job, Lorlai, those are totally Pashtun areas. We are not claiming. It's part of Balochistan, present day Balochistan. But why did the British do that? Because they wanted us to fight each other, and British would have plundered as they plundered for many years. The same thing is happening now. Pakistan is plundering Balochistan. 70%, 80% of natural gas is being provided by Balochistan, and we are getting nothing. I don't call myself as Pakistani or as a province of Pakistan, because we are separate country, separate identity. So that's why I keep on emphasizing that it is an occupied territory, and we should understand occupation is going on. We are proper Iran and Pakistan. What happened just 2 days ago? I saw on the 9th, Berlin Wall. They were celebrating 20 years the fall of Berlin. I was in Berlin because my uncle was the ambassador at that time. So I was in Berlin in 1989 and beginning of 90. So I saw this all, and now Iran has started building a wall between East and West Balochistan. They're cutting off families. There will be a 700 mile, they're planning to build this 700 miles.
A physical wall.
Well, they've already started. They've already started that. So it's going to be the same thing.